The command center of Serafel Station filled with alarms. Red lights flashed across every surface as Counselor Veyrun watched another ship disappear from the tactical display. That made 17 defense vessels destroyed in less than an hour. How many ships do we have left? Veyrun asked, though he already knew the answer would break his hearts. 4, Counselor, the communications officer replied, her voice shaking. The Krathul are preparing another wave. Veyrun looked at the main screen. The Krathul Dominion fleet hung in space like a swarm of metal insects. Their ships were dark and angular, covered in weapons that had already torn through the Galactic Harmony Collective's best defenses. For 3 months the Krathul had pushed forward, conquering system after system. They took prisoners as slaves and stripped planets of resources. Nothing stopped them. Send another request to the Council Worlds, Veyrun said. We need reinforcements. The officer's face fell. Counselor, they have already responded. The Verdani are evacuating their own colonies. The Mixali sealed their borders. The Theran Combine says they cannot spare ships and cannot or will not. Veyrun felt his tentacles curl in frustration. The collective had stood together for 6,000 years. Now when they needed each other most, fear made them turn away. An explosion rocked the station. Another ship gone. 3 left. Veyrun made a decision. He walked to the communications console and pushed the officer aside gently. His claws moved across the controls, opening every broadcast channel at once. He set the distress signal to maximum range and removed all encryption. What are you doing? His aide asked. An open broadcast will reach everyone, even the forbidden sectors. Good, Veyrun said. If our friends will not answer, perhaps someone else will. He pressed the transmit button. The message was simple. This is Counselor Veyrun of the Galactic Harmony Collective. We are under attack. Our fleet is destroyed. Our worlds are dying. If anyone can hear this, we need help, please, anyone. The message shot out in all directions, spreading across the galaxy at faster than light speeds. It reached the Council Worlds, who had already turned their backs. It reached independent colonies and trade stations. It reached the empty spaces between stars. And it reached a small yellow star that most species only whispered about in scary stories, told to children. 3 days passed. The Krathul took 2 more systems. The collective's capital world of Serafel prepared for invasion. Veyrun had stopped sleeping. He stayed in the command center, watching the screens and hoping for a miracle that would not come. Then, on the 3rd day, a message arrived. The communications officer almost fell from her chair. Counselor, we have a response to the distress call. Victorine rushed to her station. Who? Which world? The officer stared at her screen like she had seen a ghost. The signal says it came from Sol system. The command center went silent. Everyone knew that name. Sol, Earth, the Death World. That is impossible, Veyrun's aide whispered. Earth is a legend. A scary story. No intelligent life could survive there. But the message was real. It was short. Received en route. Hold the line. Veyrun read it 3 times. How far is Sol system from here? The coordinates, the officer checked her computer. If they are real, approximately 18 light years. But, Counselor, there is no colony there. No council world. The sector has been marked as uninhabitable for as long as records exist. Why? Veyrun asked. His aide pulled up the old survey data. The primary planet is a Class 12 death world. Gravity is 30% higher than standard. The atmosphere contains a corrosive oxidizer in high concentrations. The planet experiences extreme temperature shifts, violent weather, and geological instability. The survey team called it a world that actively tries to kill anything that lives on it. Then how did someone answer our call? Veyrun wondered aloud. Over the next 2 weeks, rumors spread. Some said the response was a Krathul trick to give false hope. Others claimed it was an automated message from an old probe. A few remembered the ancient stories about Earth. The stories said that Earth was so dangerous that life there had to become monsters just to survive. They said the dominant species were persistence predators, who hunted prey by chasing them until they collapsed from exhaustion. They said these creatures could heal from terrible wounds, could go days without food or water and felt almost no pain. They said Earth had so many deadly species that the intelligent ones had to learn to fight everything, just to stay alive. But stories were just stories. Weren't they? Veyrun wanted to believe help was coming, but as the days passed and the Krathul moved closer, hope faded. The enemy fleet arrived at Serafel's orbit 17 days after the distress call. Their commander sent a simple message: surrender or die. Veyron stood in the command center looking at his world through the viewing port. The beautiful blue and green planet that had been home to the collective for millennia would fall by morning, Counselor, the communications officer said quietly. We should evacuate. Veyron shook his head. Where would we go? No, if this is the end, I will face it here. The Krathul fleet began to move into bombardment formation. In minutes, they would begin firing on the planet's surface. Veyron closed his eyes and thought of his family, his friends, and all the billions of lives about to end. Then every alarm in the command center started screaming at once. Massive gravity signatures, the officer shouted. Multiple contacts emerging at the system's edge. Veyron opened his eyes. On the screen, space itself seemed to tear open. Ships appeared from nowhere, dozens of them, their hulls reflecting the light of Seraphel's sun. They were not collective ships. They were not Krathul ships. They were something else entirely. Those are the largest vessels I have ever seen, the aide whispered. The ships were brutal and angular. They looked like they were built for war and nothing else. Heavy armor covered every surface. Weapons bristled from every angle. And they moved fast, impossibly fast, burning toward the planet at speeds that made Veyron's instruments flash warnings about impossible acceleration. A message came through on all frequencies. The voice was strange, speaking Galactic Common with an accent no one had heard before. This is Terran Defense Coalition. We have the grid. Stand by. Veyron stared at the screen. Terran, Earth. The Deathworlders were real, and they had come to answer the call. The Krathul fleet had never retreated. In 300 years of conquest, they had never even considered it. But when the human ships appeared, something changed in the way their commanders spoke. Veyron listened to the intercepted Krathul communications. The enemy voices, usually so confident and cold, now carried an edge of something new. Uncertainty, maybe even fear. What are those ships? A Krathul captain demanded. They are not in any database. Unknown design, another responded. But their acceleration is impossible. No organic crew could survive those forces. Veyron looked at his own instruments. The Krathul were right. The human ships were pulling maneuvers that should liquefy any living thing inside them. Standard galactic warships could manage 3 gravities of acceleration for short bursts. These ships were moving at 8, 9, 10 gravities, and they were not slowing down. How are they doing that? Veyron's aide asked, her voice filled with awe and horror. The answer came faster than anyone expected. The human fleet did not stop at the system's edge to form up or discuss strategy. They simply accelerated harder, diving straight into the Krathul formation like predators who had spotted prey. The lead human ship opened fire first. The weapons were not lasers or plasma like the collective used. They were something more primitive and somehow more terrifying. Solid projectiles, metal slugs launched at incredible speeds by magnetic acceleration. The rounds punched through a Krathul destroyer's shields like they were not even there, then tore through the hull with devastating effect. They are using kinetic weapons, the tactical officer reported, disbelief clear in her voice. Who uses kinetic weapons in space combat? Someone who is very, very good at it, Veyron whispered. The battle was not like anything the collective had ever seen. Galactic warfare was usually careful and strategic. Fleets positioned themselves at long range. Commanders exchanged demands and threats. Battles could last days with ships dancing around each other, trying to find advantages. The humans did not dance. They charged. Within minutes, 6 Krathul ships were destroyed. The humans moved through space like they owned it, their vessels rolling and weaving in ways that should have been impossible for something so large. They worked together with perfect coordination, each ship knowing exactly where the others would be. They are pack hunters, Veyron realized. Like the stories said. A communication came through on a direct channel. Collective Station, this is Admiral Chen of the Terran Defense Coalition. We are engaging the hostile fleet. Recommend you maintain your current position. Veyron rushed to respond. Admiral Chen, this is Counselor Veyron. Thank you for coming. We did not think anyone would answer. There was a pause. When the Admiral spoke again, her voice was warm but carried an undertone of something dangerous. We heard, we came. Now let us work. The channel closed. Veyron pulled up the video feed from the battle, and what he saw made his blood run cold. One of the human ships, smaller than the others, had positioned itself directly in front of a Krathul battleship that was 5 times its size. The Krathul vessel fired every weapon it had, The human ship's shields flared bright, then failed completely. The enemy fire struck the hull directly. "They are destroyed," the aide said, but the human ship was not destroyed. It was damaged, yes. Parts of its armor were melted. Atmosphere vented from several breaches. But it kept moving forward, kept firing its weapons, and its next salvo crippled the Crattle battleship's engines. How? Veyron could not understand. Their shields are gone. They should evacuate. I do not think they plan to, the tactical officer said quietly. She was right. The damaged human ship latched onto the Krathul battleship with boarding tubes. Through the visual feed, Veyron watched as armored figures poured from the human vessel into the enemy ship. "Get me internal cameras from that Krathul ship," Veyron ordered. "I want to see what is happening." What he saw would haunt him forever. The humans were tall, bipedal creatures with only two eyes positioned at the front of their heads. Forward-facing eyes, predator eyes. They wore heavy armor that made them look even larger, and they carried weapons that seemed too big for their frames. But they moved through the Krathul ship like they were born for this. The Krathul soldiers, 3 meters tall and heavily muscled, tried to stop the boarding party. They failed. The humans moved in teams, covering each other, communicating with quick gestures and short words. When they encountered resistance, they did not hesitate. They simply eliminated it and moved forward. One section of the Krathul ship vented atmosphere. The humans kept fighting in hard vacuum like it meant nothing. Another section caught fire, flames spreading in the oxygen-rich air. The humans walked through it. "What are they?" Veyron's aide whispered. A message came from Admiral Chen. "Counselor Veyron, we need information." "What should we know about the enemy?" Veyron tried to focus. "The Krathul Dominion has been conquering systems for 3 months. They take prisoners as slaves. They have never negotiated, never shown mercy." "Understood," Chen replied. Her voice was calm, like she was discussing the weather. "And what would you like us to do with them?" The question caught Veyron off guard. "What do you mean? Do you want prisoners? Do you want their fleet disabled or destroyed? Do you want their leadership captured or eliminated? These are your systems, Counselor. We are just here to help. But we need to know what kind of help you want." Veyron had never heard a military commander ask such things. Usually battles ended with negotiations and treaties. But something in Chen's voice suggested those were not the only options. We want them stopped," Veyron said. "We want them to leave our space and never return." "That we can do," Chen said. "Stand by." The human fleet changed tactics. Instead of destroying ships, they began disabling them. Precise shots took out engines and weapons, leaving the Krathul vessels drifting and helpless. The humans worked with surgical precision, and within an hour, the entire enemy fleet was either destroyed or crippled. Then Admiral Chen opened a channel to the Krathul commander. "This is Admiral Chen of the Terran Defense Coalition. Your fleet is defeated. Your ships are disabled. You have one chance to retreat. Take it." The Krathul commander's response came through, his voice full of rage. "You cannot defeat the Dominion." "We will return with 1,000 ships," Chen's reply was cold. "Then you will die with 1,000 ships. We have studied your species. We know your tactics. We know your technology. And now we know you bleed. If you return to this space, we will not show mercy. We will find your homeworld. And we will end your ability to threaten anyone ever again. This is your only warning. Leave now." The channel closed. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then one by one, the surviving Krathul vessels that could still move began to retreat. Ships that had never fled before turned and ran. Veyron could not believe what he was seeing. The Krathul were leaving. They were actually leaving. Admiral Chen's face appeared on the main screen for the first time. She was a human with dark skin and silver hair, her features sharp and intelligent. Her eyes, those forward-facing predator eyes, looked directly at Veyron. "Counselor," she said with a small smile, "your space is secure. Now perhaps we should talk." The meeting room on Serafel Station had been prepared for visiting dignitaries many times before, but never for visitors like these. Veyron watched as Admiral Chen entered with 2 of her officers. The humans were tall, much taller than his species, and they moved with a grace that seemed wrong for creatures so large. They wore uniforms that were simple and practical, without the decorative elements that most species favored. Everything about them spoke of efficiency and purpose. Chen extended her hand. Veyron had studied the gesture from the cultural database and carefully placed his tentacle in her palm. Her skin was warm, much warmer than expected. "Thank you for meeting with us, Counselor," Chen said. I imagine you have questions. Many, Varen admitted. But first I must thank you. You saved billions of lives today. We are in your debt. Chen's expression shifted slightly. You owe us nothing. We came because it was the right thing to do, but I appreciate the sentiment. They sat down. Though the human chairs had to be quickly adjusted, Varen noticed that the humans carried themselves with a relaxed confidence even here, in an alien station, surrounded by unknown species. They did not seem afraid at all. How did you receive our message so quickly? Varen asked. And how did you arrive so fast? The journey from Sol should have taken weeks at standard warp speeds. One of Chen's officers, a younger male with pale skin, answered. We have been listening for a long time, Counselor. We have monitoring stations throughout this region. When your distress call went out, we picked it up within hours. As for travel time, our ships are faster than standard galactic vessels. We needed to be sure we could respond to threats quickly. Threats from where? Varen asked. No one even knew you existed. The humans exchanged glances. Chen spoke carefully. When humanity reached space, we expected to find others. We hoped for friends, but we prepared for enemies. Our history taught us to be ready for the worst. Varen felt a chill. What kind of history? Chen leaned back in her chair. Humanity spent 10,000 years at war with itself. We fought over land, resources, beliefs, and sometimes just because we could. We nearly destroyed ourselves dozens of times. Nuclear weapons, biological weapons, chemical weapons. We created horrors that still give us nightmares. But we survived. And we learned. What did you learn? Varen asked quietly. That peace requires strength, Chen said. That the only way to stop those who would hurt others is to be stronger than them. That sometimes the only language predators understand is violence. The word made Varen's skin crawl. Predator. She said it so casually, like it was normal. Is that what you see yourselves as? He asked. Predators. Chen smiled, but it was not a happy expression. We are what our world made us, Counselor. Earth is not kind. Everything there is trying to kill everything else. The weather, the wildlife, the diseases, even the plants are often toxic. Humans survived because we learned to be tougher, smarter, and more stubborn than anything else. We learned to work together because alone we died. An alarm interrupted them. The tactical officer rushed in. Counselor, we have a situation. 3 Krathul ships that were disabled in the battle are attempting to reactivate their weapons. They are targeting civilian evacuation vessels. Varen stood up quickly. We need to negotiate with them. Perhaps we can convince them to stand down. Chen was already moving toward the door. Negative. They are targeting civilians. That ends now. Wait, Varen followed her. You cannot just destroy them. There are protocols. We must try to communicate first. Chen stopped and turned to face him. Her expression was hard. Counselor, with respect, your protocols are why you were losing. The Krathul do not care about your rules. They will negotiate while they reload, then fire the moment they are ready. I will not allow them to kill civilians while we waste time talking. But there are crews on those ships, Varen protested. Hundreds of lives, and thousands of lives on those civilian vessels, Chen countered. They made their choice when they targeted evacuation ships. I am sorry, but this is not negotiable. She spoke into her communication device, giving orders in English. Varen did not need a translation to understand what was happening. On the main screen in the command center, he watched as human ships moved into position and fired. The 3 Krathul vessels were destroyed in seconds. Varen felt sick. You killed them all. Yes, Chen said simply. I did, and I would do it again. Those ships were a threat to innocent people. In human military doctrine, that makes them valid targets. I know your culture values every life, Counselor, and so do we. But we value innocent lives more than we value guilty ones. Over the next few days, more differences became clear. The humans established a patrol around Serafel, with the efficiency that amazed the collective. They ran constant drills, their crews working in shifts that never seemed to end. When Varen asked about rest periods, Chen explained that humans could function on very little sleep for extended periods. How long can you go without sleep? Varen asked. Current record is 11 days, one of the junior officers said proudly. Though we do not recommend it. Varen was horrified. His species needed rest every 8 hours. Going without sleep for even a day would cause serious health problems. But the humans spoke about it like it was normal. He also learned about human durability. During a patrol, One of their soldiers was injured when a cargo container fell on him. The man's arm was badly broken, bone visible through the skin. Veyron expected him to be evacuated immediately. Instead, the human medic simply set the bone, applied a metal brace, and gave him medicine for the pain. The soldier was back on duty within hours. "Does it not hurt?" Veyron asked the injured man. "Sure it does," the soldier replied, "but I can still work. The arm will heal in a few weeks. Most species would need months to recover from such an injury, if they recovered at all." But the most disturbing discovery came when Veyron watched human soldiers training. They practiced combat in conditions that would kill other species. They trained in hard vacuum, in extreme heat, in toxic atmospheres, all wearing protective gear that seemed far too light for the conditions. Lieutenant Okoye, one of Chen's officers, noticed his concern. "Is something wrong, Counselor?" "Your training," Veyron said. "It seems very dangerous. What if someone is hurt?" Okoye shrugged. "They will heal. We train hard because war is harder. Better to be injured in practice than dead in battle." "But your people could die in training," Veyron protested. "It happens," Okoye admitted. "Not often, but yes. We accept that risk. On Earth we have a saying, 'What does not kill you makes you stronger.' We take it seriously." Veyron realized that he was not just dealing with a more advanced military. He was dealing with a species that had a fundamentally different relationship with danger, pain, and death. The humans were not cruel or sadistic. They were simply products of a world so harsh that they had to become nearly indestructible just to survive. That night, Veyron looked at the stars and wondered if calling for help had been a mistake. The Krathul had been a known enemy, brutal but understandable. The humans were something else entirely. They were kind and generous, yes. They had saved the collective. But underneath that kindness was something ancient and terrifying. They were Deathworlders. And now they were here. 2 weeks after the battle, the Krathul Dominion sent an ambassador to negotiate. Veyron expected this. In galactic tradition, defeated powers always sought terms and victors always granted them. It was how civilized species conducted warfare. The humans did not agree. "No," Admiral Chen said flatly when Veyron informed her of the Krathul request. "No negotiations." "But they are offering to discuss terms," Veyron explained. "This is how wars end. Both sides meet, establish boundaries, agree on reparations." "They killed millions of your people," Chen replied. "They enslaved entire worlds. They showed no mercy. Why should we give them what they denied others?" "Because we are better than them," Veyron said. "Because mercy is what separates civilization from barbarism." Chen studied him for a long moment. "Very well. We will meet with them. But understand this, Counselor. I will not agree to anything that leaves them capable of doing this again." The negotiation took place on neutral ground, a space station that had once been a trade hub. The Krathul ambassador arrived with a full delegation, their posture confident despite their defeat. They were used to this process. They had lost battles before and always managed to negotiate favorable terms. The lead Krathul, Ambassador Thulrek, spoke first. "We acknowledge the military setback. In recognition of the Terran intervention, we propose a demilitarized zone between our territories. We will withdraw from 3 contested systems and pay modest reparations over 50 years. Veyron thought the terms were reasonable, perhaps even generous considering the Krathul's position. He looked at Admiral Chen, expecting her to begin counter-negotiations. Instead, Chen laughed. It was not a happy sound. "Let me make something clear," Chen said, her voice cold. "You do not get to make proposals. You lost completely. Your fleet is scattered. Your supply lines are cut. We have mapped your territory and identified every military installation you have. So here are the actual terms. You will withdraw from every system you have conquered in the last year. You will release all prisoners and slaves immediately. You will pay full reparations to every species you harmed, and you will reduce your military to a defensive force, subject to independent inspection." Thulrek's skin changed color, a sign of anger in his species. "That is unacceptable. You would leave us defenseless." "You will have enough to defend your own space," Chen replied. "Just not enough to threaten anyone else. And if you refuse these terms, we will implement them by force. We know where your shipyards are. We know where your military command centers are located. We can destroy them all in less than a week. You would attack our homeworld?" Thulrek stood up shocked. That violates every law of war. The Galactic Council would never allow it. The Galactic Council left the collective to die, Chen said. They have no authority here. And yes, if necessary, we will strike your military infrastructure wherever it exists. We will not kill civilians, but we will make absolutely certain you cannot threaten anyone ever again. Varen interrupted quickly. Admiral, perhaps we should discuss this privately. In a side room, Varen confronted Chen. You cannot be serious. Attacking a homeworld is unthinkable. It has not been done in 1,000 years. Maybe that is why the Krathul thought they could do whatever they wanted, Chen replied. Because no one was willing to stop them properly. There are rules, Varen insisted. Boundaries that civilized species do not cross. Your rules almost got you exterminated, Chen said, but her voice softened. Look, Counselor, I understand this is hard for you. Your culture values life and peace. That is beautiful. But the universe does not care about your values. The Krathul certainly did not. Someone has to be willing to do what is necessary to stop people like them. And that someone is you? Varen asked. Who gave humanity the right to decide what is necessary? No one, Chen admitted. We took that responsibility ourselves. On Earth, we learned a hard lesson. Evil only triumphs when good people do nothing. We could have stayed hidden in our system, safe behind our defenses. Instead, we came here. We risked our people to save yours. That gives us the right to ensure it meant something. Over the next several days, the negotiations continued. The humans would not budge on their core demands. The Krathul tried every tactic. Threats, appeals to law, attempts to negotiate separately with the collective. Nothing worked. Finally, Thulrek asked to speak with Varen alone. You must help us, the Krathul ambassador said. These humans are not rational. They will destroy us. You destroyed yourselves when you chose conquest, Varen replied. But he felt conflicted. The humans were right that the Krathul needed to be stopped. But their methods felt wrong. Too absolute, too harsh. Lieutenant Okoye found him later that day staring out at the stars. You are troubled, she observed. Your people frighten me, Varen admitted. You are so certain, so willing to use violence. How do I know you will not become like the Krathul? How do I know this power will not corrupt you? Okoye sat down beside him. You think we are monsters. I think you could be, Varen said honestly. You are right, Okoye surprised him by agreeing. We could be. Every human knows this. We spent most of our history being monsters to each other. Wars, genocides, slavery, we did it all. We know exactly how dark we can be. Then how can I trust you? Because we chose to be better, Okoye said. Do you know how humans ended our last world war? We created a weapon so terrible that we scared ourselves into peace. We built bombs that could destroy entire cities in seconds. We built enough of them to end all life on Earth. And then we chose not to use them. It took us decades, but we learned to talk instead of fight. We learned to work together instead of destroying each other. But you still keep the weapons, Varen pointed out. Yes, Okoye nodded. Because peace without the ability to defend it is just waiting to be conquered. We keep the weapons, but we choose not to use them unless we must. That choice, that is what makes us different from the Krathul. They use violence because they want power. We use it because sometimes it is the only way to protect the innocent. How do you live with that? Varen asked. How do you carry that burden? Badly sometimes, Okoye admitted. Every human soldier has nightmares. We see the faces of everyone we have killed. We remember the ones we could not save. It hurts us. But we do it anyway because someone has to. Because if good people are not willing to fight, then only bad people will have power. Varen thought about this. On my world, we believe all life is sacred. We believe violence is never the answer. That is beautiful, Okoye said gently. I wish the universe worked that way. But it does not. And when wolves come for sheep, someone needs to be a sheepdog. That is what humans are, Counselor. We are the sheepdogs. We may look like wolves, and maybe we are part wolf. But we chose to protect the flock instead of hunting it. The negotiations ended 3 days later. The Krathul accepted the human terms not because they wanted to, but because they were afraid. Ambassador Thulrek signed the treaty with shaking hands, and Varen saw real fear in the Krathul's eyes. After they left, Admiral Chen approached Varen. I know you think we were too harsh. I think you were effective, Varen said carefully. Whether that makes you heroes or something else, I am still not sure. History will decide that, Chen said. We just try to do the right thing and hope it is enough. As Varen watched the human fleet prepare to depart, he realized something. The humans were not heroes or villains. They were survivors from a world so terrible that it had forged them into weapons. But they were weapons that had chosen to protect instead of destroy. That was something. Maybe it was enough. 3 months after the battle, the Galactic Harmony Collective held a celebration. The reclaimed worlds were being rebuilt. The freed slaves were returning home. And the Krathel Dominion had not been heard from since signing the treaty. Varen stood on a platform overlooking Seraphel's capital city. Millions had gathered to honor the human fleet that still orbited overhead. The crowd was cheerful, grateful, but Varen noticed that they kept their distance from the human guests. They thanked them. They praised them, but they did not get too close. Admiral Chen stood beside him, watching the celebration with quiet satisfaction. "Your people rebuilt quickly," she observed. "They are resilient," Varen replied. "They had to be." "We have something in common then," Chen smiled. The formal ceremony began. Varen gave a speech about unity and hope. The crowd cheered. Then he announced his proposal, a formal alliance between the collective and Earth, a mutual defense pact, a promise to stand together against future threats. The cheering became quieter, more uncertain. Later, in private meetings, the other council members expressed their concerns. "The humans are powerful, yes," Councillor Mexira of the Verdani said. "But do we want that power so close to us? Do we want warriors living in our space?" "They saved us," Varen reminded them. "And we are grateful," Councillor Thexan added. "But gratitude does not require alliance. Perhaps it would be better if they returned to their own space. We can maintain friendly relations from a distance." Varen felt frustration building. "You would send them away? After everything?" "We would thank them and honor them," Mexira said carefully. "But yes, some distance would be wise. They are too different from us, too comfortable with violence. What if they decide to turn that violence on us?" The debate continued for hours. Finally, Varen went to find Admiral Chen. He found her in the human ship's observation deck looking at the stars. "The Council is afraid to form an alliance," Varen said without preamble. "They are grateful, but they fear you." "I know," Chen replied calmly. "We expected this. Does it not anger you?" Varen asked. "You saved them. You risked your lives for people you had never met." "We did not do it for gratitude," Chen said. "We did it because it was right. And their fear is understandable. We do not take it personally." Varen sat down heavily. "I wanted this alliance. I believed we could learn from each other." "We still can," Chen said. "But there is something you should know, Counselor. Something I have been authorized to tell you now that the crisis has passed." She pulled up a display showing Sol system. Varen had seen basic scans before, but this was far more detailed. He stared in shock at what the data showed. "This cannot be accurate," he whispered. "It is," Chen confirmed. "The fleet you have been hosting here is not Earth's primary defense force. It is not even 1% of our total military capability." The display showed thousands of ships, massive stations, weapon platforms, defenses that made the fleet Varen had seen look tiny by comparison. "But why?" Varen asked. "Why would you need so many ships?" "You had no enemies." "We had no known enemies," Chen corrected. "When humanity reached space, we had just finished a century of world wars. We had learned what happens when you are not prepared. So we prepared. We built defenses. We created fleets. We established monitoring stations across this region of space. We watched and learned and prepared for first contact." "You expected us to be hostile," Varen realized. "We hoped you would be friendly," Chen said. "But we planned for you to be hostile. That is the difference between hope and preparation." Varen looked at the fleet data again. Thousands of ships. This is a civilization ready for war. "This is a civilization ready to survive," Chen corrected. "On Earth we have another saying, hope for the best, prepare for the worst. We hoped we would find friends among the stars. We prepared to find enemies. The fleet you met was our rapid response force, designed to answer distress calls and handle emerging threats." "A rapid response force," Varen repeated. "That fleet destroyed the Krathel. That fleet terrified everyone who saw it. And you are saying it was just your emergency response team?" "Yes," Chen said simply. "The real Terran defense fleet stays in Sol system. It always will. Our homeworld is our line in the sand, Counselor. We will help others. We will fight for others. But Earth itself will always be defended by everything we have." Varen thought about the implications. Other species will learn about this eventually. They will be afraid. I know, Chen acknowledged. That is why I am telling you now. You deserve to know the truth. You sent out a distress call not knowing what might answer. You got lucky. You got humans who chose to help instead of conquer. But yes, we are dangerous. Yes, we could be a threat. The question is, what do we choose to do with that power? What do you choose? Veyron asked. We choose to be the shield, not the sword, Chen said. We choose to answer distress calls, to help those who cannot help themselves. We choose to use our strength to protect the weak instead of exploiting them. That is the choice we made, and we will keep making it. How can I believe that? Veyron asked. How can anyone trust such power? Chen smiled sadly. You cannot. Not really. Trust is earned over time. All we can do is keep making the right choices and hope that eventually, you will see we mean what we say. Over the next few weeks, the human fleet prepared to return home. They trained the collective's security forces on new defensive tactics. They shared some technology, though Veyron noticed they kept their most advanced systems to themselves. They were generous but cautious. On the last day, Lieutenant Okoye found Veyron on the observation deck. We will miss you, she said. I will miss your honesty, Veyron replied. Most species would have hidden their true strength. You chose to tell me. Lies between friends poison everything, Okoye said. Better to be honest, even if the truth is frightening. Will you come back? Veyron asked. If you call, we will answer, Okoye promised. That is what allies do. The Council has not agreed to the alliance, Veyron reminded her. Not yet, Okoye agreed. But they will. Maybe not today. Maybe not next year. But eventually they will realize that in a dangerous universe, having dangerous friends is better than having no friends at all. The human fleet departed the next morning. Veyron watched them leave, their ships burning bright as they accelerated toward home. The collective's space felt emptier without them. But not empty. The humans left behind a promise. If the collective called again, they would answer. If enemies threatened, humans would come. That knowledge changed everything. Other species noticed. Within days, ambassadors from across the galaxy arrived at Serafel. They wanted to know about Earth. They wanted to know about humans. Some were frightened. Some were intrigued. Some wanted alliances of their own. The Theron Combine, who had refused to help during the crisis, now requested a meeting with human representatives. The Verdani, who had suggested sending the humans away, began discussing trade agreements. Even species on the far side of the galaxy, who had never interacted with the collective, suddenly took interest in the small yellow star called Sol. Veyron watched it all unfold and understood. The humans had not just saved the collective. They had changed the entire balance of galactic power. The old rules no longer applied. There was a new force in the galaxy now, one that did not play by traditional rules, one that valued action over negotiation and results over protocol. 6 months after the battle, the Council finally voted on the alliance. It passed, though not unanimously. Some members still had reservations, but the majority understood that humanity's strength could be an asset rather than a threat. When Veyron sent the message to Admiral Chen informing her of the decision, her response was brief. Welcome to the team. The formal treaty signing took place on Serafel. This time, humans and collective members mingled freely. The fear had not disappeared entirely, but it had been joined by something else. Respect. Admiral Chen gave a short speech. We stand together now, not because we are the same, but because we share the same values. Freedom, justice, the protection of innocent life. These things are worth fighting for, worth dying for. And now, with this alliance, we promise that when one of us faces darkness, we all face it together. As the ceremony ended and celebrations began, Veyron stood with Chen overlooking the crowd. Do you think this will last? He asked. Nothing lasts forever, Chen replied. But if we work at it, if we remain honest with each other, if we remember why we formed this alliance, then yes, I think it can last a long time. What made humans choose this path? Veyron wondered. You could have stayed hidden. You could have ignored our call. What made you decide to be heroes instead of conquerors? Chen thought for a moment. We are not heroes, Counselor. We are just people who survived a terrible world and decided that we did not want others to suffer alone. Earth made us hard. It made us dangerous. But it also taught us empathy. Because we know what suffering is. We know what it feels like to be afraid and alone. We chose to answer your call because we remembered what it was like to need help and have no one come." She looked at the celebrating crowd. "The universe is vast and often cruel. Alone, species will fall to that cruelty. Together, we might just survive it. That is what humans believe. That is what we chose to fight for." Years later, when historians wrote about the period, they called it the turning point, the moment when humanity emerged from the shadows and the galaxy changed forever. Some called the humans saviors. Some called them necessary evils. Some simply called them friends. Varen, who lived to see the Alliance grow and flourish, called them something else. Hope. Hope that in a dark universe, light could find a way to shine. Hope that strength did not have to mean cruelty. Hope that somewhere out there, when you called for help, someone would answer. And they always did. Because that was what humans chose to be. The ones who answered the call. The ones who came from the shadows. The Deathworlders who decided to protect life instead of taking it. The fleet from Earth, once feared and misunderstood, became a symbol. A promise that no one would ever face the darkness alone again. And that promise, forged in battle and sealed in friendship, would last for generations to come.